Introduction. All praise is due to Allah. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon the one after whom there is no other prophet. As a 17-year-old, I came across a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which I found to be quite excellent, which I subsequently read several times. The author suggested that one should read the book once a month, which is exactly what I did. I began to apply its principles when dealing with others and witnessed amazing results. Carnegie would often mention a principle and then cite various examples of these by way of incident related to prominent figures such as Roosevelt, Lincoln, Joseph, and so on. I contemplated and realized that the author's only goal was to attain worldly happiness. What if he were to have known Islam and the etiquettes it teaches? He would surely have achieved eternal as well as ephemeral happiness. How about if he were to have turned his wonderful interpersonal skills into worship, with which he would have drawn closer to Allah? When I later discovered that Carnegie had committed suicide, I knew for certain that this book, despite its merits, had not benefited him. I then began to search our own history and discovered that the life of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and anecdotes of some of the prominent men of these ummah are more than enough for us to learn lessons from. From then on, I began to author this book concerning the art of dealing with others. Hence, this book is not the product of a month or a year's toil. Rather, it is the result of 20 years of serious study. Although Allah has blessed me with the ability to have produced 20 books so far, some of which have been printed in their millions, I nevertheless believe that the most beloved, precious, and beneficial of all of them to me is this book, which I wrote with ink blended with my blood. I poured out my soul and squeezed out my memories as I wrote these lines. I have written these words from the very depths of my heart so I may penetrate the heart of the reader, and would be delighted to learn that he or she has indeed implemented its teachings, experienced an improvement in his or her skills, and therefore actually began enjoying life. If he or she were to then thankfully write a message expressing his or her views and feelings honestly and send it to me via email or SMS, I would be grateful for this kindness and pray for him or her in their absence. I pray to Allah that the reader benefits from these pages and that he makes my effort purely for his sake, written by the one who is always praying for what is best for you. Dr. Muhammad bin Abdul Rahman al-Arifi. Chapter 1. They did not benefit. I remember once receiving a message on my mobile phone which read, Dear Shaikh, what is the ruling on suicide? I called the sender to find a very young man on the other end of the line. I said, I am sorry, I didn't understand your question. Can you please repeat your question? He said with a grieving voice, The question is clear. What is the ruling on suicide? I decided to surprise him by saying in response something unexpected, so I said, It is recommended. He screamed, What? I said, How about if we discuss the best way for you to do it? The young man fell silent. I said to him, Okay, why do you want to commit suicide? He said, Because I can't find work. People do not love me. In fact, I am an utter failure. And thus he began to relate to me his long story in order to prove that he had failed to develop his interpersonal skills and was unsuccessful in utilizing his talents. This is a problem with many people. Why do some of us feel inferior? Why do we look at those at the peak of the mountain while thinking of ourselves as unworthy of reaching that peak as they have, or even climbing it as they did? The one frightened of climbing mountains forever lives in the ditches. Do you wish to know who will not benefit from this book, or any other similar book for that matter? It is the unfortunate one who surrenders to his own errors and becomes satisfied with his limited skills and says, "This is my nature. I have become too used to it now. I cannot change my ways. Everyone knows this is how I am. I can never speak like Khalid does, or have a cheerful countenance like Ahmed has, or be universally loved the way Jihad is." That would be impossible. I once sat with a very old man in a public gathering. Most of those present were people with the usual skills and abilities. The old man was busy speaking to whoever was sitting next to him. He did not stand out in the crowd for any reason, except by virtue of his old age. I delivered a lecture, and during it mentioned a verdict given by the eminent Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz. When I finished, the old man said to me with pride, "Shaykh bin Baz and I were colleagues. We used to study together in a mosque under Sheikh Muhammad bin Ibrahim about 40 years ago." I turned around to him. I turned around to look at him, and noticed that he seemed very happy to share this information with me. He was delighted to have accompanied a successful man once in his life. I said to myself, "Poor man, why did you not become as successful as Ibn Baz? If you knew the way to success, why did you not pursue it?" Why is it that when Ibn Baz passes away, people cry for him? From the pulpits, mihrabs, and institutes and various nations grieve over the loss. Yet, when your death comes, perhaps nobody would shed a single tear, except out of kindness or custom. We all may say at some time or another, "We knew so and we sat with so and so," but this is nothing to be proud of. What one can be proud of is to scale the peak as they did. Be brave, and from now on be determined to utilize all the abilities you possess. Be successful. Replace the frown on your face with a smile, depression with cheerfulness, miserliness with generosity, and anger with perseverance. Turn your calamities into occasions of joy, and your faith into a weapon. Enjoy your life, for it is brief and there is no time in it for anguish. As for how to do this, then this is the reason for my writing this book. So bear with me until the end with Allah's permission. You will bear with us if you are brave enough to be determined and persistent on the development of your interpersonal skills, and if you are willing to take advantage of your abilities and talents.